There's a few Republicans here and there that have exposed this administration and this president's desire to make sure that this is in place so that he can have a quick and hostile takeover of the country. One of those folks is Lisa Murkowski.
Understand why Democrats are hesitant?
Oh, sure I do. I mean, I look at that and I say, I see it. This is where I spoke out very strongly. Not only did the administration do it, but then they didn't give, they set it up in such a way that our hands were tied in being able to respond. So we're stuck with it. The appropriations process is being run over, and that to me is absolutely unacceptable. I think it's important that there still be good faith discussions between Republicans and Democrats about how we get out of this.
Lisa Murkowski, the senator from Alaska, who's getting screwed over consistently, but keeps voting in favor of the guy who keeps screwing her over, is exposing yet again something else about these guys' plans and the way that they've tied up many Senate Republicans' hands to even negotiate, to even talk about ways to reopen this government. That's what she said. You know, our hands are tied. They did it in a way to make sure that our hands were tied. So as they keep complaining about how the government isn't opening, they're making sure that there's not going to be anything, any negotiations, any talks, because they want it closed. That's why they keep boasting and talking about all the programs that they keep shutting down.
And as President said, he's got a lot more tools at his disposal. If after this March on Kings thing, the Democrats are still shutting down the government, then you could expect that the president's actions to cancel, silly government programs that the Democrats love and to take them away forever, that's going to ramp up significantly.
So that will be the tools after this weekend, closing down what? Programs that the Democrats want.
Programs. But the bottom line is that we don't want anyone to lose their job. We want everybody to get back to work. There's already been a significant reduction in the federal workforce because of the work that DOJ and the president have done this year.
Pay attention. He revealed so many things in that little 30, 40 seconds. First off, silly Democrat programs and agendas is what apparently that they're happy and gleeful about shutting down. Silly. So anything that's already been taken away, it's silly. And things that they say they're going to plan to continue to take away and fire more people, they're silly. So all these Americans, you guys are silly. They hate you. They're anti-American. Let's keep that part real. But I think there was like a glitch in his brain. He then circled back and said, we don't want anyone to lose their jobs. How could you say you don't want anyone to lose their jobs when you just said you can't wait to fire more people based off of this whole thing with this government shutdown? But he's still connected it to the No Kings protest. He's all over the place. He was fed like 20 talking points and he got them all jumbled up, and he's trying to find the right order to say them in order to check all the boxes of this propaganda machine that he's supposed to be talking for. Kevin Hassett isn't a very smart person. Let's keep that part real. I want to go to Senator Schatz. He's a Democrat. And he talked about some of the inside information, I guess. It's pretty obvious to me. But way some of these other elected officials are talking. And I want you guys to remember what Kevin Hassett just said about silly Democrat, as he's characterizing them, silly Democrat programs that they're looking to shut down and destroy while this government is shut down.
They're saying they're cutting Democratic priorities, right? They cut special ed. They cut substance use treatment money. They cut CDFIs, which are these local lenders, mostly for rural and tribal communities. And they, in their sort of bubble on Pennsylvania Avenue, think those are like Democratic priorities, or as they say, Democrat priorities. But it's Mike Rounds, it's John Thune, it's Thom Tillis, it's Dan Sullivan, it's Lisa Murkowski. Everyone's freaking out saying, I don't know what gave you the idea that this wasn't a bipartisan program. And so I think Russ Vought sort of overplayed his hand. And I think as we see evidence that they've overplayed their hand, they're going to get even more sort of rhetorically nutty, because I think people want us to fear the thing that has already happened. And I think if the equities were a little different, right? If we were saying, hey, look, if we move on, then Russ Vought will like cut it out, right? That's one thing. But Russ Vought has been doing all of these things all along. It is very hard to negotiate with someone who is threatening a thing that has already occurred.
It's exactly what Hassett was saying, except here, Brian Schatz pointed it out even clearer. First of all those silly things that Hassett said that they're cutting are things like special ed and substance abuse programs. This is the same administration that said they're blowing up boats in Venezuelan waters because they're trying to keep the flow of fentanyl coming to America. But when you already have tons of addicts in this country, they're eliminating things like substance abuse programs. They don't give a damn about folks that are addicted to drugs. They just don't. They need them as more boogeymen, first off, to demonize them if they're on the streets, and also say they claim to be wanting to save their lives as they kill other people to carry out some other policy to then go and invade and start wars with Venezuela. But Schatz also talked about these Republicans like John Thune, Lisa Murkowski, Mike Rounds that are like, wait, these are policies that affect us. Why do these losers keep voting for it then? If they're behind closed doors talking about how these policies that are apparently Democrat-run policies, why aren't they out talking about it? Why aren't they out really getting upset about these programs that their constituents who voted them into office are going to be suffering from? Not only that, there's tons of programs. They bragged about the things that they've already done. And that's the last thing that Schatz was on. You can't negotiate this threat from Republicans that are saying, we're going to start cutting programs. I was saying this for the past week or two. They already cut those programs. That's what Elon Musk did from day one when he got into this administration. He's cutting programs, and now they're threatening to cut the programs they already cut. What are we negotiating about? But I asked the question, why more Republicans that are upset about the cuts of these programs and the lack of any kind of negotiation, why it is that they continue to support this administration and this president. I've been hearing a lot about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been saying some of the right things. She's even talking about the government shutdown being Republicans' fault. You guys remember that?
I see the shutdown completely different from maybe my party leadership. And I'm not putting the blame on the president. I'm actually putting the blame on the speaker and Leader Thune in the Senate. This should not be happening.
But so you're putting the blame on the leadership of your party?
Absolutely. We control the House. We control the Senate. We have the White House.
She's also very upset about all this that's going on and how these Republicans aren't taking it to heart. Here's some quotes that she had in an exclusive interview with Axios. Representative Greene won't cross the line of directly criticizing Trump. That's my main problem, and I'm going to get to big details of that. But she also told Axios that parts of his second-term agenda are America last. Oh, look at Marge. She says it's a revolving door at the White House of foreign leaders when Americans are, screaming from their lungs, is what she told them. If me saying those things are considered breaking with my party, then what is the Republican Party? I thought we were America first. She also praised Trump multiple times throughout the interview, telling Axios that he's done a great job in a lot of places. But she said the administration's focus on overseas wars contradicts the MAGA movement. Why is Marjorie Taylor Greene talking? Ask yourself that question. Anytime any politician is talking, ask why they're talking. She doesn't have to do an exclusive interview with Axios. She doesn't have to go on people's podcasts. She doesn't have to have press conferences. She chooses to do those things so that she can promote something they're looking for an end game. What does Marjorie Taylor Greene want? Ask that question, because as she's talking about all the things where she's breaking with her party, she wants you to know that she's breaking with her party. And as she's talking about how they're doing things America last, at the same time, she's talking about how great of a job Donald Trump is doing. How do those two things exist at the same time? She had more quotes to Axios. She says Republicans have no plan when talking about health care. She says Mike Johnson has not had a single conference meeting about any sort of plan to deal with the ACA tax credits expiring. She hasn't had any conversations with Democrats about a deal, noting that it's hard to negotiate when Mike Johnson has kept lawmakers out of town for the past month. She wants you to know that she doesn't deal with Mike Johnson, and Mike Johnson is the driver behind all this stuff. If Mike Johnson's the driver behind all this stuff and making sure that there's no negotiations, no plans for healthcare, no plans to reopen this government, and Mike Johnson walks around on his knees to kiss Donald Trump's feet, why don't those two things connect? Why isn't Mike Johnson's inability or refusal to do anything, why is that not connected to the guy who he's supporting, who he's protecting from the Epstein files all the way down to his Insurrection Act that he's going to try to invoke? Why don't those two things match up? Someone needs to ask Marjorie Taylor Greene why she keeps letting the guy off the hook who runs The guy that she said is the problem. I mean, these aren't like complicated things to ask someone who's having these big moments, who's having press conference, who's giving exclusive interviews. So here's more of what she's saying. Continue thinking about why she's saying this. What am I saying that can be criticized? She asked. I'm saying the cost of living is too high. Health insurance premiums are destroying the middle class, and Republicans have no plan. She called the administration's $40 billion bailout of Argentina America Last, arguing that it leaves U.S. farmers, quote, on the verge of bankruptcy. This is serious stuff. She also warned tariff instability is squeezing farmers and U.S. manufacturing, who, quote, don't know if the tariff policy is going to change with a Truth Social post. Whose Truth Social post would be the thing that changes tariff policy? Who? I wish the Axios reporter would have asked that question. Which Truth Social post? Who posts on Truth Social? Who implemented the tariff strategy? Who said I'm going to bypass congressional authority to implement things like tariffs? The guy that she said is doing a great job. So why is she doing this? As you ask yourself that question, understand that she also said this. She supports Trump's overall goals on tariffs, including Made in America and pursuing reciprocity in trade. If the tariffs are destroying farmers and putting them on the brink of bankruptcy, if tariffs are destroying the economy, if nobody's opening the government and we're going to be destroyed on healthcare, why do you support the overall goals on tariffs if tariffs are destroying all those things that you said you're in support of preserving? Does it make any sense to you? It doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense to me. So next time somebody tells you that Marjorie Taylor Greene is speaking truth to power, oh my God, she's holding her party's feet to the flames. Oh man, is she going to become an independent now? Which in that same exclusive interview, she said, hell no, I'm not becoming an independent. And by the way, it wouldn't work for her because we'd reject her ass. But why is she saying all these things that contradict each other? And the only thing that's standing in her way of fully saying those things and maybe doing something about it is the guy that she keeps saying she supports. How do you hate tariffs and support them at the same time? How do you hate the results of tariffs and say that you agree with the overall results of tariffs? There's clear-headed thinking liberal people and progressives that are like, man, Marjorie Taylor Greene is on something, because they're somehow getting fooled by this. Hey, yo, I'll believe it when it happens. Not believing it before it happens isn't some kind of detriment to it actually happening. If she does something, if she actually finally says some reality and truth without it just being talking points to make herself look better, I'll be like, good job, Marge. Good job. Until then, I'm seeing the lies.